There in the distance is Pikes Peak. It also gives you an idea of the potential weather up there. Unplugged Performance is back again for the 4th year and the 3rd year with Dark Helmet, our Tesla Model S Plaid. That's the goal. 14,000 feet, 12.5 miles flat out in this. The Unplugged Performance Model S Plaid. And we're going to go over it a little bit here and have a look. We're unloading right now. Got our truck driver and stalwart crew guy. We just kind of roped him into this, and he's the greatest, Dylan. And then we've got Craig Coker, regular development driver, hero for Unplugged Performance. And somewhere we have Clyde, our official mascot dog. He just wandered off. And so this is a normal Tesla Model S Plaid, and it is, drivetrain is pretty much stock. That means it has about 1,000 horsepower. If you haven't been in one yet, try it. I think you'll like it if you like fast cars, because the Model S Plaid is the fastest production car ever made. So the drivetrain is stock. We have not been in there. We cannot alter the software. We got the latest track mode installed from Tesla. As you may know, there are regular updates, and this stuff just comes over from the heavens. And the big feature for this year, actually last year, was the aero. We have a very aero-focused setup. Got a giant splitter here sticking out in front, all the way back to a really big wing. We're friendly with a resort restaurant called Casa Bonita, which has been purchased by the guys who created South Park and totally renovated at a cost, I am told, of over $40 million. And we plan to go there and eat as soon as they open, which is pretty soon. It's 2023, and we're getting ready for Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. And today is a test day. We're at Pikes Peak International Raceway. There's a lot of Pikes Peak around here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're going to test the car in the parking lot. Parking lot? Why parking lot? Because there's bumps, big bumps. And I've gotten in trouble in a couple of these Unplugged Performance cars when they surprised me on big bumps by jumping all over the place. And this year, I want the car to be comfortable with the top section on this course. It stays frozen so long. The frost heaves are unbelievable. It's so rough, it's almost like the Baja 500 in some places, especially for a real race car. This car has Unplugged Performance suspension and pure racing parts on it from end to end. We have the rear flares removed here so that we can get at the shock. And if you look right down in here, this is, in English, we'd say that's an Öhlins. In Swedish, which is where they're made, it's pronounced something like Öhlins or Uhlins. And these are the shock adjusters, four-way adjusters, high and low speed damping on both. Very trick. We've got shock potentiometers this year to read the rate at which the suspension moves. It can print out something called a histogram that tells you how the shocks are working. It's pretty cool. Inside this giant wheel, well, the wheel's wrapped up with Yokohama Advan Racing slicks. Yokohamas are the greatest. We've been running them every year that we've come up the mountain. They've performed incredibly well. And we have a wide variety of compounds and tires to choose from. And they're as big as possible. Let's see how big this thing is. 330/19. It's a 330/19, about that wide, because a Tesla, as you may know, they carry big batteries. Big batteries are heavy. This car weighs about 4,700 pounds, something like that, which is probably twice what a lot of these race cars weigh that are running up the Pikes Peak hill climb. I'm not sure how many total entries. I think it's like 60 or 70 entries. And we're going to be an exhibition class, which is where we've run before. We won 2 years ago. Last year, I think we were third. Last year was a crazy year because of the weather. 2/3 of the way up, it got totally clouded in. Well, they call the Pikes Peak hill climb the race to the clouds. Last year, it was more true than ever. And we just deal with whatever happens. That's part of Pikes Peak. The mountain runs the show. You're really racing the mountain, not your competitors, not yourself, not your car. The mountain makes the rules, mostly because of the crazy weather. And you can't make a mistake. There's no runoff. There's no room for mistakes. Where was I? We were talking about aero, and we've got a full under tray, a flat bottom to create ground effects, and then right here is the beginnings of tunnels to increase the speed of the air. The faster air is going, the lower its pressure is. It's the Bernoulli principle. That's why airplanes fly. So we try to speed up the air under the car to create a low pressure area, to create downforce, and basically suck the car to the pavement. That leads to a rear diffuser. Sticking out the back, this aerodynamic device helps create aerodynamic downforce. You might have seen it in IMSA race cars in GT3, GT4, or maybe in Time Attack. Our designer is a physicist who works with a lot of Time Attack cars. And one problem we're having right now is the diffuser, the lower it is, the better it works. But the bumps get really big. So we're working out just how much clearance we can have and still be able to run up and down the mountain. And by the way, look, here's Clyde, our new mascot. He looks mean, doesn't he? But he's a sweetheart. Clyde is a good boy. He's a good boy. But if anybody gives us any trouble, we're going to sick him on him. So don't mess with Unplugged Performance, or you're going to have to answer to Clyde. Big old wing, and you can see the wing here has two elements. You get the right angle. It's really two wings in one, as wide and as long as possible. It's enormous. It's the strongest aerodynamic element on the car. The wings and the aero actually adds drag. It makes it harder to push the car through the air, but it's worth it. On almost any race car on Earth, the more downfast force you have, the faster you go. The car's not really this ugly. We actually have a beautiful carbon fiber flare that fits over this. As I mentioned earlier, this is for access to the shock, because we're doing primarily shock testing today, and some work with the bump rubbers and what we call packers to see how much suspension travel we can use and still have the aerodynamics work. On the front, you see the same thing, carbon fenders. Much of the body on our Tesla is carbon fiber, trying to get it as light as possible. I know it's not light, but it's lighter than a regular Tesla. And the lighter a race car is, the better. Inside, we've removed all the excess interior parts. There's no extra seats, nothing like that. But you'll see it still has that same screen, because that's how you control a lot of what happens with a Tesla. Racing seat and a heavy-duty roll cage. They have very strict rules on the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb for safety, and for the roll cage, it has to match the weight of the car as well. And this is a heavy one. We're actually really comfy though, because our Tesla still has its air conditioning, its defroster, has a lot of the standard features because they're part of the system, and we want everything to work right, work smoothly. Main job is to get to the top of that mountain in one piece and do it in the fastest time possible. Our strategy is to be conservative, not make mistakes, have a fast car that's safe to drive and that can handle the bumps in the top section. And it handles incredibly well. Craig has won a lot of Time Attack driving events in Southern California, which is where Unplugged Performance is from. It's kind of cool because I actually bought a Tesla Model S myself recently because I wanted the electric car experience. Because people, electric is coming. And I wanted to learn. I like the instant power, the instant torque, and I like that about the Plaid. The Plaid has no gearbox. It's one gear, and the electric response is instantaneous, and the electric traction control is far more accurate and effective than the traction control in a regular gas-powered car. That's part of why Teslas and electric cars in general make such incredibly good drag racers. The Tesla is the fastest car that Motor Trend has ever tested in the quarter mile. And its power and its traction, it's all-wheel drive. So if it rains or snows up on the mountain, we're not afraid of that. It's actually going to help us. And we'll take whatever the mountain gives us, because it's the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, and it's all about the mountain and the unplugged performance Tesla Model S Plaid that we call Dark Helmet. All rise for Dark Helmet. Ooh.